Hey guys, Ben here from Wrestling Life, and today I have a little story to tell you about the time that I accidentally headbutted Stone Cold Steve Austin. What? So we're going to have to go back in our time machine to January 2004. Stone Cold wasn't an active performer in the WWE anymore. He was the Raw general manager. You'll remember each week that he was coming down on his quad bike and wreaking havoc in the ring and seemed to be having a lot of fun along the way. At the same time, he'd just released his autobiography, The Stone Cold Truth. And I couldn't believe my ears when Jim Ross, on an episode of Monday Night Raw, said that Stone Cold Steve Austin, the WWE Hall of Famer and arguably the biggest star of all time, was going to be coming to the UK, and he was going to be coming to Lakeside Shopping Centre, of all places, to do a book signing at WH Smith. I mean, that was just insane. It kind of dropped, the announcement just dropped in the middle of an episode of Raw. Nothing more was said about it, and we moved on. I got in touch with my best friend Dave. Dave has been my Wrestling Life buddy for over 20 years. He remains my best friend to this day. And we were at uni at the time, and I was like, Dave, surely we've got to go and meet Stone Cold. So that's what we did. We set off. The signing was announced for I think it was 6 p.m. On maybe a Monday or Tuesday evening. I can't remember. It was a weekday, and it was a weird time. So I thought to Dave, I said, I bet this is going to be really popular. We should go super early. We'll have a day at Lakeside, do some shopping. Not that we have much money because we're students, but we'll have a day of shopping, and then we'll get in the queue for Stone Cold, say mid-afternoon, and meet him. That was my naive thinking. We ended up going super early to beat the traffic. So we head down, and we got to Lakeside at like 7:30 in the morning. There was no one in the car park, or so it seemed. And we're just sitting there twiddling our thumbs thinking, Lakeside isn't even open yet. What do we do? We sit in the car for what must have been well over an hour, waiting for what we thought the doors to open at 9 a.m. When we get through the doors at 9 a.m, we walk up to WH Smith, there is no queue. Stone Cold Steve Austin's doing a sign in 9 hours' time. There's no queue at all. Yes, we've beat the system. We're there super early. We can have a day of enjoying Lakeside, and then we can meet the Rattlesnake later. I make an inquiry with someone at the counter saying, "Oh, when does the queue begin for Stone Cold Steve Austin?" And she looked at me with a smirk on my face, and she said, "You just need to go to that door there." We go to the door of what is basically a fire escape, open it up, and discover there is a queue that goes on and on and on and on. Whilst Dave and I have been sitting in our car waiting for Lakeside to open, hundreds and hundreds of fans have arrived, and they've been shepherded into this little fire escape queue to wait for Stone Cold, who isn't arriving for another 9 hours. So we get into this queue, we start walking down the queue, we go past 50 people, 100 people, 200 people. Before I know it, we must be, 500 people deep into this queue. And reality has set in that not only did we waste 90 minutes in a car when we could have been queuing, but we've now got a very, very, very long day ahead of us. 9 hours of queuing to meet Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, this shows just where my fandom was back in 2004 and how invested I was in the product at the time, but I was willing to spend 9 hours in a queue. You'd never catch me thinking about any amount of time to meet anyone these days, like that. But back then it felt like a good way to spend a day. I remember talking to a couple of guys in the queue, and these guys had replica they had the replica WWE Championship, the undisputed title, and they had a World Heavyweight title, big gold. And I'd never held a replica title. I never knew that these were even things that existed at the time. And I couldn't believe that people had got actual replicas of the belts that I loved. What a very, very different time 2004 was. We stuck it out in this queue all day long, and it was exhausting, but I remember we had some incredible conversations, and I loved the community, and everyone kind of kept the morale going as the excitement built. I think it got to about 5 p.m. and we started to shuffle forward, and we started to make our way into WH Smith's. And after a point, I got into the store, and things were moving, and suddenly the door opens and out bursts Stone Cold Steve Austin, flanked by WH Smith's security guards with a huge smile on his face. Utterly crazy, so bizarre to see him in a WH Smith, a tiny newsagent in the UK. But this is when things started to get really, really crazy. For whilst we had been in this little alleyway, away from everything that was going on, the crowds had descended. And outside the store, Lakeside had got absolutely nuts. There was suddenly police there. There were hundreds, if not thousands, of people had descended on WH Smith at about 5 p.m, thinking that they can meet Stone Cold, and suddenly being told that no, they couldn't. The queue was full, and being turned away at the door. And things started to get really, really ugly really quickly. You know, I was trying to do my research today to try and remember when this was. It was January 22nd, 2004. There's actually an article in the Colchester Gazette, of all things, talking about, it's titled "Scuffles as Fans Scrambled to See Stone Cold Steve," not Stone Cold Steve Austin, Stone Cold Steve. But it talks about how violent scuffles broke out as hundreds of wrestling fans fought to get a glimpse of their hero. And that's kind of what it was. It's like we'd been in this queue just thinking we were there to get our book signed and get a photo of Steve. There was no charge, by the way. These were simpler times. None of these fanatics days of $500 for a photo. This was buy a book, get a photo on your own camera, and leave after meeting your hero for free. You never get that now. But we started to go down the queue. And as it started off, you know, you were seeing people having interactions with Steve, and he was having conversations and laughing and smiling, and it was a good, fun thing. But as the intensity of that crowd got worse and worse, suddenly we noticed the interactions were getting quicker and quicker and quicker. There was someone with a camera taking the photos. They were asking for your name very quickly beforehand so that you could personalise the book, and it was going faster and faster and faster. I'm watching through the window of WH Smith's and seeing like the chaotic scenes getting worse and worse. They'd now brought down the barricade, the metal shutter barricade of the door. And I'm like, this is getting quite scary now, you know, like this is starting to get really out of hand. I was genuinely thinking that even after 9 hours of queuing, we wouldn't get to meet Stone Cold Steve Austin. But we did. And we're getting rushed more and more. My friend Dave goes up to him before me. He has like literally 5 seconds to hand him a book, get a photo, off he goes. Dave's got a great photo of him looking a bit bewildered as this lady very quickly takes a photo. Dave's not ready for it. Steve's smiling, job done, out the door. And then it's my turn. Now, me being me, of course, I want to have a conversation with someone. I can't meet someone, especially, you know, one of the legends of the business, without wanting to have a conversation. Even back then, I wanted to have a conversation. So there I am, and even though I've got like about 3 seconds, I try and talk to Steve and tell him something about one of my favourite matches with him, with Bret Hart. This is where the fun starts, because I lean in to Steve Austin. That's a WWE Hall of Famer, toughest SOB in wrestling, baddest man in pro wrestling, Austin 316. I lean in to this giant of a man, and I headbutted him. I kid you not, I actually headbutt him. Our heads made proper contact as I went to the side of him and properly clashed heads with the Rattlesnake. I was absolutely mortified, genuinely one of the most embarrassing moments of my life, but also a little bit worried because I've just headbutted Stone Cold Steve Austin. But I turned to him, I said, "I'm so sorry." And he looked at me, a bit bemused, but with a smile on his face. And he said, "Don't worry, son, I've had a lot worse than that." And that was it, book signed. I got my photo. I was so pleased to get my photo, so excited that despite headbutting Steve Austin, I'd at least got a photo with one of the greatest of all time. Obviously, these are in the days when you get photos processed, so I don't see what the photo is at the time. Send it off, you know, 1 hour delivery, 1 hour production, really excited to see the photo. Get the photo back. And the lady in WH Smith had done a sterling job of catching the exact moment in time when my head made contact with Stone Cold Steve Austin, this blur with my eyes closed, smacking Stone Cold in the face. Safe to say that photo has not become a cherished memory. It's not up on my wall. It's not in my collection behind there of me with wrestling greats. It's one of those mortifying moments from my one and only interaction so far with Stone Cold Steve Austin. I hope more than anything that one day I get Steve on this show, because I have so much respect for his body of work, for him as a performer and everything he's accomplished in wrestling. I didn't get to get a conversation then. Hopefully one day I will. But mere moments after headbutting the Rattlesnake, we had to escape under this shutter. And we were genuinely one of the last people to meet him before the whole shop had to be shut down and the signing had to end early. Crazy, crazy times, but also indicative of just how crazy those times were post-Attitude Era, how frenetic wrestling fans can be and how much love there was for Stone Cold Steve Austin in this one UK appearance. So that's the story of me meeting Stone Cold Steve Austin. I would love to hear if you've had an embarrassing, funny or unexpected encounter with a wrestling superstar. Please drop a comment, please let me know. Or even if you've had an incredible experience meeting a wrestler, please let me know as well. And I'm going to do one shameless plug if you don't mind. But if you want more stories about Stone Cold Steve Austin, I have written a book. I've written a book with Mark Mero, Mark Mero's autobiography, Bad to Good. Mark, of course, traded a lot of matches with Steve over the WWE US title and then later in the WWF, including, of course, the infamous match at King of the Ring 1996 where Mark Mero kicked Steve in the mouth, blooded his mouth, and that would lead later on to the Austin 316 promo and the birth of arguably the biggest star of all time. So Bad to Good is out now. That's my book with Mark Mero. I hope you can check it out. But for today, I hope you've enjoyed this little trip down memory lane. It was mortifying for me at the time. But you know, that is wrestling life, that is life. Not everything goes perfect, and you just have to chalk it up to experience and have a laugh about it all these years on. I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a comment below, like this video, and if you are able to support the channel by becoming a member. I'm creating all of this content independently, trying to create a channel for positive wrestling discussion and for unexpected interviews with people you may have loved when you were younger, or may want to know more about today. I've been Benville. This is Wrestling Life. Thanks for listening. Be good to each other. See you soon. Bye.